Hey guys, how's it going? And happy Friday. I hope all of you are doing good. We're going to talk about the two-way, the Second Amendment, not only as it was written in 1791, but today. Where are we at with the two-way? Where are we at with the natural right to keep and bear arms? I want to talk to you guys about that tonight, and I encourage all of you to talk together. I'm also going to talk about red flag laws, gun control. Is this the end of a republic? And last but not least, Susan left me. No more Susan. She never had a chance, but she left us anyways. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, fill them in, chat. I think about red flag laws, and I think about red. And I remember when I grew up, there used to be an old saying where they'd say, I'd rather be dead than red. And a lot of people did die to fight off the Reds, to fight off the communists, the Stalinists, the Leninists, the Bolsheviks, the Reich that was supposed to last 1,000 years, the Democratic Socialist German Workers' Party, fascism, which was the unholy alliance between government and large megacorporations, and under the guise of nationalism, actually ruled with an iron fist, an unfair and unholy alliance between the powerful and the powerful, making each other get richer and more powerful at the expense of regular people. And I look around today, there's so many things that are happening in the United States. And when I went to my state capitol building in Lansing, Michigan, in a couple days, I saw a lot of people. And yeah, they were grieving, and they should grieve, and that's a perfectly healthy thing to do. But they were also politicizing one of our natural, God-given rights, my right to keep and bear arms that was endowed by my Creator, that should be above any type of political fray. My Creator supersedes any party, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. It supersedes Lansing, Michigan, and it supersedes Washington, D.C. But the left, they never let a tragedy go to waste. And while they claim to be the compassionate ones saying, do something, do something, do something, we have to do something right now, in many ways, they're the least compassionate people. Because they politicize the loss of people that didn't deserve to leave this earth. And to me, somebody who's compassionate and truly cares would pray and offer condolences. And somebody in leadership of the Michigan Democrat Party, leadership on the Michigan House of Representatives, said, F your thoughts and prayers. Which tells me, in my opinion, there's a lot of people in power right now who don't really care about people being safe, because they politicize it the first chance they get, and then they try to enact policies that won't make people any more safe. In fact, it's the complete opposite. It's literally morally proven and also statistically proven that gun-free zones do not make people safe. And I've been talking about this for a long time on this channel, but some of you are new, and I welcome you, whether you're watching live or on replay. These are called criminal empowerment zones. Now, let's just think about this for a minute here. You don't have to be a particularly smart person. You just have to have a little bit of common sense and just understand right from wrong and be able to call a spade and know when somebody's trying to act like an actor and manipulate you right to your face. People that claim to be the most compassionate people, right? On the heartstrings, emotions, because I guess there's logical thinkers in life and there's emotional thinkers in life. And I've been blessed that I was born with both. I can have compassion and I can have emotion, but I can also have logic. These very laws that have already been put in place, unconstitutional laws that are repugnant to the laws of nature and nature's God, and are also repugnant to the supreme law of the land in America, which is the United States Constitution, as amended in the Second Amendment, that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, why? Why would it not be infringed? A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. It literally tells us why. It tells us that we can be free if we're well armed. No, not just for hunting and target practice, but to protect ourselves and our friends and our family and our neighbors from bad and evil people. Because this is a battle of good versus evil, and it was when this country was founded, it was before that, it is right now, and it always will be. But the founding fathers knew that that's what would be necessary to the security of a free state. So any infringement on the Second Amendment, on your natural right to keep and bear arms, is clearly going to make you less free. And that's not according to me, that's according to the founding fathers, who set up the greatest experiment on self-governance that the world had ever known. A country that would be of the people, by the people, for the people, and that to us, that to them, would seem most likely to affect our safety and happiness. And we find out every time, every single last time, that they go against these principles that the founding fathers were so enlightened to understand and then write down. Every time we go against those, people become less safe. So what do they want to do in the name of do something? We have to do something right now. They're going to double down, triple down, quadruple down, and keep doing things that makes us less and less safe. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the state of Michigan today, but I've done some streams dedicated specifically to that. But what's going on in Michigan? And what's going on with the ATF, with their arbitrary and capricious rules? This is all the same thing all over again. And I know some of you are Christians and some of you are not, but if you read the Bible, it tells you there's nothing new under the sun. And there's actually nothing new here. And when you look at the name red flag laws, why do they love using the color red in a flag so much? Because it seems we've seen red in flags before, haven't we? We think of things like the USSR. We think of the Bolsheviks. We think of Red China. We think of Chairman Mao, Lenin, Stalin. These are some of the most evil, despicable people of all times, and also ran regimes which resulted in the most death that the modern world has ever seen. Instead of trying to ask the tough questions when there's a tragedy, and it was tragic, but instead of trying to address the tough questions, the really, really tough questions, which is holding people accountable and saying, what is our moral compass? Do we have a moral compass in this country anymore? Do we have solid families in this country? Are we still putting our Creator first? Because whoever you believe created you, whoever, whatever, I know everybody doesn't think just like me. That's who endowed you, your certain unalienable rights. And government has never, ever been the answer. Not even close. That's why America was founded on such principles that to you would seem most likely to affect your safety and happiness. That's what Thomas Jefferson wrote as a fairly young man in his mid-30s. And it was published on July 4th, 1776. And instead, it seems like we're worshiping almost anything other than our Creator. And it seems that faster and faster, the moral compass in this country is to just destroy everything as fast as possible. In the name of compassion. In the name of do something, do something, do something. Yeah, I think we should do something too. And I do care about the safety of students, being young adults in this most recent tragedy, and children in other instances. There's an invention out there, and it's called a lock on a door. Maybe they could try that. Maybe they could write a law that makes it illegal to, kill somebody. Wouldn't that be the first law you'd put? Look, if you don't want people to be able to take the unjust killing of somebody, okay? Some killing is justifiable, some killing's righteous, but I'm talking about taking life in a murderous fashion. You don't have the right to murder anybody. I hope everybody would know that. It seems to me the first law you would pass would be to simply outlaw murder. And since obviously laws affect criminals according to the other side, and since obviously if you make a law it stops everything, then if we would just outlaw murder, all of this would be stopped. And we would never have anybody murder again. Now that must be the argument that people on the other side are making right now in Lansing. It's all across the country, even in Texas. Before everybody says, screw you, Michigan, I live in Texas, there's a huge gun control bill that's being proposed there. Florida has red flag laws, right? It's all over the place. It doesn't matter where you are right now. Everybody's only one tragedy away from being able to lose the free exercise thereof, their natural rights, without the government making major hurdles and trying to get in between you and how you see fit to protect your safety and happiness. Now, if you made a law that outlawed murder, clearly nobody would ever murder anybody again. That's the logic they're using right now. If you would just make it illegal for people to bring a gun on a college campus, that would have to stop any tragedies like Michigan State University, because that's a law. There's even a sign on the door. So before they would even look at things like, quote, red flag laws, I would assume before they would also look at anything like a so-called storage law, before they would even consider universal background checks and registration and licensing, you'd think they'd start from the beginning and first outlaw murder. I would urge all of your state representatives and senators in Michigan to please outlaw murder, because if you make a law to stop it, it can't happen, right? That's what they're saying. Do something, do something. If you write it down and pass it through the legislature and the governor signs it, nobody will ever do it again. So they need to pass that law first. And then the gun-free zone thing, that would obviously work too, because if you tell people there can't be a gun on campus, well, then how could somebody possibly get shot when it's illegal to have it there, right? Now, some of you are shaking your head, especially if you've never watched me before, being like, what's this guy talking about? Yeah, I know. Trying to convince you of that would require the listener to be dumber than the speaker. And while these people that are uttering these things on the floor of the Michigan House of Representatives and on the floor of the Michigan Senate, those are pretty dumb statements. But for the people that actually believe this, that are actually calling for this, words can't even describe the low level of aptitude that it would require to actually believe this. Because murder has been outlawed in Michigan as long as I can remember. And that's a good thing, actually. I do not think you have the right to murder, and it should not be legal. But we've also had gun-free zones on these campuses since at least the 90s, as far as I remember. Sometime in the 1990s under the Clinton administration. And I knew from the first time I heard about these, I was a young man, a teenager, about the same age as some of these who were tragically lost at MSU this past week. I said, but that doesn't make any sense. Because it's already illegal to steal, yet I had witnessed people shoplift before. It's also illegal to do all these other things that we see people do every day. A law doesn't stop people. And then they said, but it's a sign. We're going to put a sign on the door. I'm like, but that doesn't really make much sense either. Because I had seen places that had said no shoes, no shirt, no service, and you'd see people walking around in their barefoot. And this was when I was a young teenager. I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense, because the only people that would follow such a sign would be a law-abiding person. And a criminal wouldn't follow that law because they don't care. Because once somebody's literally so mentally deranged, so empty of God, so sick, that must not acknowledge or fear an afterlife, right? Once they've committed their brain to actually do something so heinous and so evil and sick and twisted, you really think a sign's going to stop them? Now, luckily for me, I grew up in an area where I didn't have to witness these types of violent acts. And I know some of you have, and I'm glad I didn't have to. Of people getting shot, I never saw that in real life, but I did see other things happen. Remember when kids after school would get in a fight? And, they'd go down in school. Sometimes it would happen in the hallways, but you couldn't fight too long because if you did, it'd get split up by a teacher or the principal or something. And there was this spot where they'd meet up back behind this little party store that sat on the corner that was in between my house and where I went to high school. And it wasn't a far walk from the school at all. And people would say, let's just go take it out back behind there because you were off of school property and you might get to go at it more than 30 seconds if people felt the need to get in a fight. Sometimes people wanted to go at it, and 5 minutes after they were done, they picked themselves up, wiped the blood off their nose, and they were giving each other a hug and shaking hands, and they were best friends again. And I think that's a lot of the problems nowadays is they don't let boys be boys, and people aren't allowed to just go take it out behind the schoolyard or behind the party store. And a lot of people bottle it up and just go completely insane, amongst other reasons. There's many reasons, but I think that's one of them. But I could remember even back then, sometimes it'd be more of a willing thing. Sometimes someone would get kind of suckered into it and they'd look at the guy that's like, all right, let's go. And the person would say, stop. And then blam, get whacked in the face. And what that reminds me of is this. It's real simple. When somebody's hell-bent to do something and they're going to do it, telling them stop doesn't stop them. And a sign on a door does not say stop. No, in fact, it's the exact opposite. When that sign's on the door and it says no guns allowed and they put the X or the line through it, it becomes a criminal empowerment zone where these bad, sick, evil, deranged people look at that and they say, yes, easy pickings, uncontested. I can do what I want. And I know I don't understand what someone would be possibly thinking where they would want that. And I never do want to understand that intimately. However, it's obvious that people have the desire to do evil things. And a sign on the door saying gun-free zone doesn't just not stop them, obviously. But it actually, in my opinion, invites them in. And says, come here. There will be no resistance. Because people do kind of have, and it's really sad that it's this way, and I don't know why it is. Maybe some of you that are like psychology majors, if you want to help me in the chat, you can. I will read all this afterwards. People do kind of have this little hive mind to them. Now, the left definitely has that no matter what, and that's why they're way more successful at their agenda than people that are more on the right. And I'm not talking just Democrats and Republicans. I'm talking people who are more liberty-oriented, who can think for themselves more. But even a lot of people that are, quote, on the right, they'll say, well, I am a law-abiding citizen, and if that's a law, then I can't do it, and therefore I won't. That's a huge problem, that we would now have lawmakers who are trying to make laws that any person with any common sense would know that that law is detrimental to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That it's detrimental to, as them would see most effective in protecting their safety and happiness. That to normal people, we would understand it makes people less safe. If they're doing laws that are contrary to those ends, I almost think, in my opinion, it seems that a lot of these legislators actually want more people to break laws. And I really can't see it any other way. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, whether it's currently what's going on in the state of Michigan with all the gun control that's being rapidly introduced, and in many other states. You leave people in a situation where the criminal, the evil, despicable person that wants to do abhorrent things, they're clearly going to gravitate towards a gun-free zone. They're clearly going to gravitate towards people who aren't armed so they can do these malicious acts as long as possible. And it also encourages people that still have a brain left on their shoulders to not want to follow these laws either, actually. Just think about this. We have two things. And we've always been taught it's a dichotomy. We have crime and we have law. Okay. Now we have the supreme law of the land, which is the United States Constitution. And very early Supreme Court case said all laws that are contrary to the Constitution, they are void. They're null and they're void. So who's the real criminal? The person that's making a law that's contrary to the supreme law of the land? Because if you break the Constitution, that's a crime. Not just according to me, but according to the very early Supreme Court and the Founding Fathers. But let's skip to today. You're either law-abiding or you're a criminal, they like to say, right? Well, clearly, these gun control laws are, A, encouraging the quote-unquote criminal to commit more crimes because they can get away with it to much more success. I hate using that word, but in their mind, that's how they would look at it. It's also encouraging the law-abiding citizen to break the law. Because there's a lot of people right now that have had enough. Enough's enough. It's like, really? You want me to disarm myself when I'm going to be around my children? That's what they've done in some states. That's what they're trying to do in Michigan. Just think about that for 1 minute. Our children and my beautiful daughter is a gift from God. To me, and I expect all of you to think this way about your own children, quite frankly, the most beautiful, precious, valuable thing in the world. Until my wife had her, I didn't even know anything that beautiful could even exist, quite frankly. And they're going to tell me in the state of Michigan that when my daughter's in my home with me, that I can't be armed at the ready, that my gun has to be rendered inoperable, unloaded, disabled, locked away. That's encouraging one of two things, and I can't see a third way, but if someone else can, please let me know in the comments. That's either encouraging a criminal to come into my house, do whatever they want to my wife, my daughter, to me, unhindered. Run, hide, fight is what they told those young people at Michigan State University. Run and hide and fight with what? The old saying goes, you don't bring a knife to a gunfight. You can't even have a knife on these campuses. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. The cops sure showed up with guns, didn't they? Yeah, because we all know a good guy with a gun's the only thing that'll stop a bad guy with a gun in a gun-free zone on a college. And also within my home and within your home. You know, we'll protect banks. We'll protect jewelry stores, celebrities with guns. But I'm being told that literally the most precious, beautiful thing in the whole world, my daughter, when she's living in her own home with me, I'm now being told, this is if this passes the Michigan Senate and House, that I won't be able to arm myself at the ready anymore. That it'll have to be locked, rendered unusable. Yeah. When seconds matter, police are only minutes away if they're going to come at all, which sometimes they don't. Sometimes it takes hours. Depends. Many different scenarios on that. The criminal can come in with their gun at the ready, cock locked, ready to rock, and I have to say, hold on, hit the pause button. I need to fiddle with my lock, pull out my cable, load, charge. Yeah. I mean, that might be how it works in a video game, but this isn't a video game. This is real life. So it sounds like it's either encouraging the criminal to come in to any house they want in the state of Michigan and in many other states where they're either proposing this or already have put it in place, or they're encouraging people like me and you to break the law. Think about that for a second. The situation that it puts people in. How have we got to the point where there would even be one legislator, let alone presumably a majority of them? If you look at the co-sponsors of the three major Senate bills in Michigan, yes, there's companion bills that go along with them, but if you look at the main three bills, 2 out of the 3 have every Democrat in the Senate signed on to it. So the whole Democrat Party is represented in the Michigan Senate, in my opinion, must want to make as many criminals as possible in the state of Michigan. I should come up with a shirt that says crime makers and have the mitten of the state of Michigan on there. and write the Michigan Senate, the Michigan House of Representatives on there. Crime makers, because people have been making a mistake lately and calling these people lawmakers. When in my opinion, let me know what all you reasonable people in the chat think. It seems like they're trying to make as many people criminals as possible, one after another. I mean, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but when you're literally passing things that are so-called laws that do nothing but increase crime and increase the propensity towards good, quote, former law-abiding citizens becoming criminals, what are you? Are you a lawmaker or are you a crime maker? Yeah, we do need to make crime illegal again, Mike McClune. If there's any Republicans in the Michigan House or Senate that happen to be watching this right now, lawmakers that still believe in the rule of law, I encourage you to call some of your colleagues on the other side of the aisle out on that and remind them, when guns are outlawed, only criminals will own guns, obviously. You're not making laws, you're making crimes when you pass bills that only affect the law-abiding and only empower criminals. Because by sheer definition, criminals don't follow laws. Bad people don't follow laws. But good people generally don't need laws because they fear things much bigger than the Michigan legislator. And good people fear things much worse than the governor of Michigan or the ATF or the former vice president. No, they fear their true judge, which is going to be their eternity in the afterlife. At least almost all religions I'm aware of believe in some form of that. Every single time there's a gun control law that's passed, it makes more criminals and people less safe. They're looking to take upwards of 20, even 40 million people, felons in the United States of America, over a pistol brace. Something that allows you to more safely handle a heavy, larger pistol. Something that allows you to aim more accurately. Yeah. Instead of gun control laws, we need to bring Eddie Eagle back or something the equivalency of into our schools, teaching young kids about firearms. You don't hide firearms from kids in the house. Are you kidding me right now? That makes it taboo. That makes it a secret. Kids are the most inquisitive, inquiring beings there are. I mean, anybody ought to know that. I'm not a psychologist. You don't need to be a psychologist. You just need to have a kid or be around a kid to know. Hide it, lock it away. No, how about we start teaching our children about firearms? Some of these things sound tough, some of these answers, but I would challenge anybody that's pro-Second Amendment in the Michigan House, in the Michigan Senate, and any state that has these types of laws. I think you should do a bill, since the House and Senate loves to do so much with education mandates in the state of Michigan. I believe we should get the government out of education, by the way. But if we're going to do that, why doesn't somebody put forth a bill that requires that it's a mandatory class that children K through 12 have to go through firearm safety every semester, every year, all the way through? I think that would be a lot more effective than trying to make something taboo and hiding it. Nowadays, kids play video games so much. Just imagine this, right? Little Johnny, little Susie, you can't play the video game because I took away the video control. I took away the controller, right? I think that's what it's still called. I don't play games. The controller. I took it. Don't look under that vase over there. I took the controller, so you can't play. Now I'm going to go outside. I'm going to go to work. I won't tell you where it is, but don't look under that vase over there. Any of you that have had kids are literally laughing hysterically right now, right? And we have every single Democrat in the Michigan Senate right now saying, lock the guns up in the home is the only way that it's going to keep that family and those children safe. The only way. And they say all the way up to 18 years old. 18 years old? That makes me think of the militia. Think of 17-year-olds. I know you used to be able to. I'm pretty sure you still can. Chime in if there's any current active duty or veterans out there. Look, last time I checked, you can actually enlist and sign a contract to go into the United States Armed Services at the age of 17, where you're ready for your boots to hit foreign soil on your 18th birthday-ish, you know. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Well, who is the militia? No, it's not the National Guard. No, it's not the United States Army. The well-regulated militia the founding fathers are referring to, that's you. That's when the Emperor of Japan said, we want to attack the United States mainland. They did that tragic cheap shot on Pearl Harbor. Man, that still ticks me off thinking about the way they did that. But they thought about actually invading our mainland, and they didn't, because when they got together with their intelligence, they said, we can't. Because if we hit the United States mainland and bring troops in, you'll find a gun behind every blade of grass. The Democrats in Lansing, Michigan, and maybe some Republicans, I hope not, and all across this country want us to be invaded, in my opinion, by foreign enemies. They want us to be invaded by domestic enemies. They want criminals to thrive. Because the Emperor of Japan didn't say we can't invade America because everybody has a disabled, rendered unusable, unloaded, and locked up with a cable and inside of a box hidden in their closet. He was quoted as that saying that? Never. Just think about that. We can't invade America because if we do, we're going to find a disabled firearm that's not ready to be used at any moment's notice. In fact, all the other countries of the world that hate us, that want to take us over, places like China, they're sitting there looking at it going, lock them up. Because when we invade you, we're going to be cock-locked and ready to rock. Do you think troops would invade our land with disabled rifles, with cables running from the bore and through the chamber, blocking the bolt or blocking the whatever? I mean, let me know. I'm sure some of you guys are at least keyboard military strategists. Let me know if that's the way they would invade. But of course, I'm being sarcastic. I already know the answer to that. Of course, they wouldn't do that. We literally have a country that literally was won with muskets, with firearms. And we've literally prevented foreign invading armies from coming here. This is recorded in history because of all the armed citizens. And we have people saying, do something, do something, do something. And then these, quote, lawmakers, I'm going to start calling them crime makers, are doing things that's going to make it more enticing for us to be invaded. It's going to make it more enticing for criminals and deranged and sick, evil people to come into our homes, to come into our schools, our universities. I mean, I don't want them to do this, but they like to give hyperbolic speeches about things on the floor and on their Twitter. They may as well just put a big sign up that says, criminals, come in here and do whatever the heck you want. And law-abiding citizens, you may as well just become criminals. Now, I say this sarcastically, but what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth nowadays? I don't know. Just wait a couple months or weeks or sometimes days. I wouldn't be surprised soon if we don't see a law that's proposed in the Michigan Senate or in the Michigan House, supported by all the Democrats, that literally says, let's commit as many crimes as possible, Bill. None of these people have ever had children, obviously, in my opinion. Anyone that says if you just lock something up and make it completely taboo to a child, that's about the opposite effect. I say while you guys are busy writing and calling your representatives, say make firearms education mandatory K through 12. Now, I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but I'm actually being serious. I think the government should butt out of our education. We got along just fine in this country until 1979, till we formed a federal Department of Education under Jimmy Carter. And I've only seen our country go downhill since then, actually. But while we're in the government's in the business of legislating curriculums and all these things, make it mandatory that we have firearms education. I mean, how are we going to throw off a tyrannical government or protect ourselves from enemies, foreign and domestic, if every able-bodied man isn't able to take up their arms and actually know how to use them? It's not just your right to protect your country, it's your duty. And that's nothing I came up with. That's literally what Thomas Jefferson said. I hope what I'm talking about is stuff you guys are talking about, I'm thinking about. Because we are in a culture war, literally right now. Sometimes it's hotter, sometimes it's colder, but that is what's going on right now. We want some people want us to go, in my opinion, I can't see it any other way at this point, want us to go to this. The red flag. Other people still want the red, white, and blue. And still want a republic. I left a poll. Do we have a republic or a democracy? Well, there's a real easy answer to that. But if you really think about it, it actually gets quite complicated. I'm going to take a look at that poll here in 1 second. How are you guys doing tonight? I do want to stop real quick before I forget to thank all of you for the many ways you help support the channel. A lot of you guys are channel members that I see here in the chat. A lot of you have been known to leave me generous super chats, supporting on Patreon, as well as locals. Make sure you guys are a member of my locals community. It's a censorship-free site. You can join or you can support. Running this channel is definitely not free, not even close. Like, it costs a lot of money on its face, and I lose a lot of wages spending tons and tons of time doing this stuff. So all of you guys that help it stay possible, I really appreciate you guys. And I will be streaming tonight. I'm going to go on here, I think, for closer to 2 hours because there's a few things I want to talk about. And then I will be on locals tomorrow night for a live stream where I will be touching guns live because I'm not allowed to here on YouTube. One more thing. Now, this makes me happy. It does. I'm really happy, but it kind of makes me sad. I'm going to start off like I normally do. And this is why there's a lot of problems in Michigan and a lot of places throughout the United States, right? The former vice president, let's go Brandon. And I would note, the most popular and the most fortified election of all time. And hold on, YouTube. That's according to Time Magazine, which is a NewsGuard certified source. Susan Wiki. It's been fun. I got this custom bumper sticker made. And although I told her many times that she doesn't have a chance. She never really did. But it was kind of nice having a groupie on here ever since I started this channel. Susan Wiki has left YouTube. Now, I assume in her personal capacity, she probably still watches the channel. But I guess I'm going to need to find a new groupie. Because ideally, if I was a rock star, I'd have a bunch of hot chicks following me around. But, yeah, you know, that's the rock star life. But since I'm not a rock star, I had Susan. She was my groupie. She followed me around. And now Susan's gone from YouTube. And now instead we have Neil. Don't know much about Neil, but sorry, Neil, I don't swing that way. So Susan's gone. I'm going to need to find me a new groupie to follow this channel around. I hope you're enjoying the stream, Neil, but nope, we can't be friends either. Did you guys ever think it would happen? Susan Wiki is gone. Yeah. I thought I saw Linda thank JJ Rainey. I see nothing here that's pinned up, but it looks like JJ Rainey gave some gift memberships. So thank you, man. I appreciate it, dude. Looks like we might have some new channel members in the house. It doesn't show me that on my side of things through StreamYard, but hopefully you guys can all see that. And congratulations to the new members. And thanks for helping support the channel, JJ. I appreciate it, man. And I do want to pause to say one more thing that's not necessarily gun control related, but it is important. Yellow Dog 64, yes, rest in peace, Richard Hoffman, otherwise known as the Hoff. I believe he still has his YouTube channel. And first of all, I'll just say this. Great American and a great guy. A guy that I actually got to know, not just from watching him on YouTube here, but in real life. And I got to hang out with him. And just a great American, a guy that would literally say, and this is a family-friendly show, okay? So I'm not going to exactly quote him, but just F the ATF, bleepity bleep bleep, ran the ATF out of his house. Like, they come in and do their thing, right? At the barrel of a gun. And he did his thing a couple times and actually ran him right off. Also threatened to meet him out in the desert in Vegas. And I mean, this was a true American rebel. Talk about a nice guy, though. I went to the Iraq Veteran 88 hangout this past fall. And it was the first, and I didn't know it then. But I cherished every second of it nonetheless. It was the first and last time I would ever get to hang out with Richard Hoffman. If you guys don't know who he is, you can check out his YouTube channel. And what an awesome dude. I mean, here I was hanging out with one of the foremost submachine gun experts in the whole world. A guy that literally knew more about the Uzi with his own unique design, which was the Katsar Uzi. He took a hybrid between a full size and a micro Uzi and made his own model that many people said was what they should have been using in the armed services the whole time. He got to the point where he knew so much about that system that, as Mr. Uzi himself had passed away in Israel years ago, and things changing of the guard over at IWI, the company had changed names, that when they had Uzi questions, they would actually have to call him. And he brought his machine gun collection with him, and I shot some of his machine guns, which was totally awesome. And talk about just being a generous dude. Like, you know, hey, do you want to shoot my Sturmgewehr, my this, my that, my FN Model D? I have a lot of those videos as video shorts. I had to take some of them down due to YouTube policy, but some of them are still there. And the ones that aren't, I'm going to get reposted over on Locals. But I'm talking like filling up the whole mag, saying, here, shoot it again, which was just totally generous and awesome. And I got to shoot some guns that he owned that I'll never be able to afford and would never even be able to touch. And then you shoot guns for a while, which is awesome. And, you know, you'd think that'd be the highlight of the day, shooting machine guns, but not really, because I actually sat and talked to the man for quite a while. And I have a video that I need to post, and I'm probably going to have to post it to Locals. So stay tuned here on YouTube. I might be able to post just the introduction part of it here on YouTube, and then I'm going to have to tell you guys to go over to Locals because it violates the new YouTube's terms of service. But the Hoff and I actually sat down and talked for, several hours total throughout the couple days. But we actually filmed us talking for, I want to say, at least 20, 30 minutes. Talking about guns. Literally one of the smartest guys that there was as far as just the way machine guns work. And then we also talked about other stuff. So I miss him too. And I know a lot of you guys do as well. So definitely shout out to the Hoff, man. I don't know how else to say it, but he was literally like Billy Bad ASS and like the most kind, nicest guy you've ever met, like all at once. I'm being serious, like literally both of those. Super, super nice guy. And yeah, I'm glad I got to hang out with him. And I do want to share some previously unseen footage that no one's seen before. Sharing some of his wealth of knowledge that I don't want to be forgotten about, but I'm probably going to have to post it somewhere else besides here, because that's how the terms of service are of this site, unfortunately. So, yes, my friend Frank was there with me, and yeah, it's cool we got to hang out with him. One of those things where if you got to hang out with that dude, you were lucky, and I was lucky enough to get to hang out with him. Some of you guys are talking about IV 8888. Yeah. Look, you guys can have all your opinions you want. I don't care in a way, but I'll just call a spade, which I always do on this channel. Look, Eric of Iraq Veteran 8888. I haven't necessarily liked everything he's ever said 100% of the time or whatever, but generally I actually do. And he's a really, really good dude. I actually like him a lot. So there you guys go. He does host a really nice event. And I will tell you guys this, when he hosts this event, he really tries to do a good job. And so, yeah, he's a good dude as well, for sure. I saw some of you guys talking about IV 8888 in there. Ego Raja. Let's go, Brandon. I agree. Yeah. So I'm sitting here right now, and that's what I've been doing most of this stream so far, and saying, this is literally crazy. They want to pass these gun control laws in the state of Michigan as soon as possible. They said today isn't good enough. They needed to be passed yesterday. They're also trying to pass them in places like Illinois and Washington as we speak. I mean, we look at places like Chicago, New York, California, Oregon, New Jersey, Maryland. I mean, it goes on and on and on. As soon as I start naming states, I'm going to forget somebody, but I think you guys get the point. And then people say stuff like, well, Florida, the gunshine state, Florida has red flag laws. Florida has laws that affect modifying triggers. Things like that. Florida has some pretty messed up gun control laws. You look at Texas. It wasn't until a couple years ago that you could even open carry in Texas. Now in Texas, they want people to register ammo and many other things. It looks like a big confiscation scheme to me. Or put people on lists for ammo. I haven't become intimate with it yet, but I'm starting to research some of this stuff that they're trying to get to go on in Texas. I think Texas still has the so-called 30-06 signs. Isn't it 3006? So you guys call it 30-6? Maybe they got rid of those, but I don't think so. That makes it where if you carry into a private property that says no guns allowed, it actually carries the weight of a crime. I'm not talking about state mandated or federally mandated gun-free zones, because the gun-free zones thing was part of the Bill Clinton scheme back in the 90s, which didn't work. And he even admitted that it didn't work after the fact. Some of these Democrats in the past used to admit that the gun control didn't work, and they backed away from it for a few decades. Now they're coming in running 1,000,000 miles an hour. There's literally gun control in all 50 states of this union. I don't know what the answer is exactly. Do we balkanize? I think about the Balkans, the former Yugoslavia. Here's some of their hyperinflation currency notes. Well, the fact that I'm holding up and talking about hyperinflation currency notes, many with Nikola Tesla, many with more. Oh, let's see here. What is this, about 50 billion? Yeah, 50 billion dinara. I'm bringing this up for a reason. Times are pretty tough right now, but times can get pretty tough. There seems to be this mentality I've seen lately, and I want you guys to help walk me through this, because I might not have people from all 50 states in this chat, but I believe there's a representation. And I'm kind of seeing two things happen. I don't think by one single person that's in the chat right now. I really don't recognize anybody. I'm kind of scrolling through here. seeing tons of awesome people. So I'm definitely glad you guys are here tonight. And there might be one or two of you, but I really don't think so. Not you guys, but just people from the gun community, from the 2A community. Have been leaving me lots of messages lately, both in YouTube comments, instant messages, emails. I see this even on other sites. There seems to be two things going on. A lot of this. I want you guys to help me figure out why. And see if there's somehow we can start to come up with a plan to reject both of these. Half of people, and I'm going to put forth, this is kind of a problem we're experiencing right now among each other. Half the people are doing the holier than thou, I call it. The sanctimonious approach. And I'm only saying this because this is the most popular one. This is not to anybody that's in this chat right now. And there's some people from these two states that get it like crazy, okay? I'll give you an example. My friend Denny Wilson's in the chat, and he is my friend, and he's an awesome dude, and he's from Texas. And my friend Catherine Henry, who I've had as the guest on my stream here, former Michiganian, she's in Florida. So this is not me just painting with an all-encompassing brush. However, a lot of the people that fall under the, I call it holier than thou or sanctimonious, there's that type. And then there's the crabs in the bucket type. And I don't know which one's worse, but let's talk about this together. And I will read all this chat, and I want to see if you guys can help me with this. Help each other and help all of us with this. They'll come in from Florida, and Texas is the most common too. And I've just literally by name named two people I'm good friends with from both states. And I know tons of people more than that. I'm just saying. I like both of these states. And they say, serves you right. You got what you deserve. You voted for her, meaning Gretchen. You did whatever. So the state of Michigan deserves it, what happened to you. And then they'll say something like, good thing I live in Texas. Good thing I live in Florida. And there's other states, but those are the top two. I'm just saying. And when I read that, I go, oh, aren't you holier than thou? And then like my common sense kicks in, and it's like, well, come on, man. I ain't trying to sit there and give anyone a hard time. I've actually gotten flack, by the way, and lost subscribers over the years, and people have told me so because I've stuck up for the good people that live in California. And if anyone doesn't believe me, go back and watch my streams. I'm not going to tell you what stream to go to. That's your job. People want to fact check me? Put away your video game and go over there and actually do it. Do the hard work. I put in the thousands of hours on this channel doing the streams. If it takes someone thousands of hours to prove me wrong, go spend your thousands of hours. I've never condemned anyone for living in any particular state or said serves you right, by the way. But people will say, it's your fault that you don't live in this state. I'm like, oh, wow, aren't you holier than thou? And then I'm like, but hold on a minute. As of right this minute, Michigan doesn't have a red flag law, although if people can't fight like hell to somehow find somebody, convince somebody to change their mind in the Michigan House and Senate, we are going to have them soon. But Florida already has red flag laws. What the heck is wrong with us is what I'm really trying to ask you guys. And I'm going to give another scenario of people too. That I don't hate them or anything. It's just getting on my nerves. We've got the other side in unison standing out on the front steps of the Capitol saying, do something, do something, do something, do something. Gun control, gun control, gun control, gun control. And you can just hear bzzz, the hive mind just fluttering their wings in unison. And then we got the gun community and the 2A community. And people saying, ha, 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 I live in Florida, serves you right, living in Michigan. DeSantis, Whitmer. I'm like, whoa, just stop. You guys have red flag laws. Like, what the heck's wrong with you? And then I have the people that come in, and again, there's awesome people that I literally see in this chat that are also good people. So I'm not painting with a broad brush here either. I'm smart enough to realize people aren't that simple. But then I have the people from California, mainly, followed by New York, and they come in with a different tune. It's just as frustrating. And they say, ha, 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 serves you right. If we have to deal with all this crap, you should have to deal with it too. We're Americans too, and since we have all of our rights infringed upon like crazy in the state of California and New York, those are the most common to have received, then you deserve it and you should have to have it too. And that's called the crabs in the bucket mentality, which I also don't understand. I think it's toxic. Because I don't want all these 50 states to be the same. I've said this a million times too. But there's a lot of new people that watch this, and I welcome new people. So I'm just kind of giving you guys a little history lesson of this channel. I've always said this. I don't want all 50 states to be the same. I don't want us to be the United Federal Government of America. In fact, the exact opposite. We're the United States of America, and I want things to be different. When I go down south here in a month or so, I want it to feel like I'm down south, because there's many awesome things about the South. I don't want to be like I'm in Michigan all over again. And I would hope if one of you from the South was in Michigan hanging out with me, you'd be able to see some of the things that were different here, and you might like something about our culture that's a little different than yours. And that's one of the true things that makes America great. So I don't want us to be all alike, but geez, oh Pete, if all 50 states, if we can't just unite on that we're all against gun control, we are screwed. Because people of the left, people that want to tear down our Constitution, tear down our unalienable right to keep and bear arms, they're able to coalesce together against us no matter where they're at. I mean, they're able to pass red flag laws in California. They're attempting to pass them here in Michigan, and they've been able to pass them in Florida. It's true. The gun controllers can get together everywhere, but the Pro-2A people always want to fight. I said crabs in the bucket earlier, and you guys know the whole conundrum of crabs in a bucket, right? It's an experiment that's been done before. And it's really interesting. So there'll be a bunch of crabs in a bucket. Several crabs. And what would happen is if you have a crab on the edge, right? And I just got a notification. Okay, anyway, sorry. If one would crawl on its back and one would crawl on the other one's back, it could reach the edge and start to climb out. See? But then the other ones realize, hold on a minute. If he crawls out, then there won't be enough of us left to keep stacking up on each other's back. And even if there was 100 crabs, 98 might be able to get out, but the last two wouldn't be able to. And somehow they know that. So as the one crawls up on top of the other ones and starts to get his claws up and starts to pull himself out, the other ones will grab it and pull it right back in. So I deal with many, many people that just totally get it. And that's who I'm hanging out with as far as I can tell here in the chat. And that's why I am talking to you guys, because you guys are intelligent people. We don't agree with everything. I don't want you guys to agree with me on everything. Please, if we agree about everything, then we're going to end up becoming like the communists. No, let's not all agree on, we can not agree on almost anything. But I think you guys get it, though, like the bigger picture of life. And it's like, why, oh, why do we still have these? And they're not the majority. There's many, many awesome people who I read comments, way more awesome than not awesome. But there's still enough people out there. And it's not just on my channel. I watch them in all kinds of people's comments. I meet these people in real life, on the street. I meet them all over the place. And it's like, geez, oh, Pete. Most of us are like, geez, let's just argue about everything we want, but let's just stand together and say the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And let's get together on it. We don't have enough room for crabs in the bucket. We don't have enough room for the sanctimonious and the holier than thou. I was wearing this exact hat walking through the front lawn of the Michigan Capitol. And then I was sitting in the gallery that overlooks the Michigan House of Representatives. Man, I don't know if there was 1,000. The papers keep saying hundreds, but it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people there that were there for different reasons. But one of the main reasons, it appears to me anyways, as far as I could tell, and I was literally there, was to call for gun control. They were certainly there to politicize tragic events that had happened, in my opinion, by the words they were saying. I'm just like, wow. These people get together and they literally chant. And I didn't see too many people arguing about gun control. They just all knew that they wanted it. We want it now. We want it yesterday. Boy, oh boy, that's effective. Not in a good way, in a totally bad way, but that's actually effective. And here it's like, well, and here's the problem. When you deal with people that lack aptitude and tend to like to drone around in the hive mind where the queen bee just tells the drones to go do their thing and the workers to do their thing, and you've got George Soros and you've got Michael Bloomberg and you've got the Rand Corporation and you've got the University of Michigan and you've got Johns Hopkins. I talked about all this in a recent stream. There's lots of funding, but they have the ability just to bzzz, and they swarm and they, you know what I'm talking about? And I just say the other side because I'm not even trying to draw political parties with this, just people that don't want us to be free. And I say, well, this is something we could all agree on. I'll say that. And I get it because a lot of us are actually thinkers and can use our brains. I'll say, guys, this is the one thing we can agree on, right? And then it'll be like, well, that depends on what the definition of the word is. Define we. Are we speaking in Latin or English? I mean, it's like, no, I was just trying to say, like, can we just all agree that we need to stop this gun control? Hold on. I need to find out, are you a Glock guy or a SIG guy first, they'll ask. It's like, well, hold on a minute. Nope. Because if you're a Glock guy, no. Or the next guy might say, but if you're a SIG guy, no. All right. Can we all get together and go to the Capitol and try to uplift some of these reps that are actually fighting to try to protect Michigan Constitution, Article 1, Section 6 in the Second Amendment? Yes, but nope. That was an AK behind you. And I'm like, well, yeah. And an AR, see? Susan Wiki, Neil. Not literally behind me. That's a green screen, right? That's a green screen back there. I have to say Neil now that Susan Wiki's gone. I'm like, well, that's an AR on that green screen. And that's, nope, that's an AK behind you. I can't go to the Capitol. I'm like, oh, great. I go to the Capitol. All I hear is bzzz, gun control now. Gun control now. It's like, come on, guys. Can we come to the... No. You have a Taurus, G3C, and an AK. Now, I know everybody's not like that, and I might be being a little bit hyperbolic. However, you guys know what I'm talking about. I know you guys have dealt with this. Please tell me it's not only me. I know you guys get around the internet. What's happening, Frag Out Design Studios? How you doing, man? I know you're a smart dude. I know you know what I'm talking about, Frag Out. Shout out to your channel, man. Band Talk. I know you know what I'm talking about. Shout out to your channel, dude. For all of you listening on replay, I'm just saying hi to some of these channel supporters here in the chat, hanging out. You guys know what I'm talking about. Rick Davies, who can we get to sponsor a bill for mandatory firearm training? I don't know for sure, but I have a list of people that I think we should talk to about it. Here's what I'm thinking about doing. And I want to do a lot of this on locals because it's free to join. It literally is, okay? But you actually have to log in as a free account before you can go on there. I ain't got nothing to hide in the truest sense of the word, but I do in a way. I don't want the other side knowing what all my plans are. You know what I mean? So I'm going to start. For example, I'm going to be posting there soon the next time I'm going to Lansing. I'll let you guys know here, hey, I'm going to Lansing again soon. And I am talking to a couple representatives about it right now. Now, we can go just whenever the heck we want. I just thought of a little simple plan that I'll tell you guys about that might be a good experience. I'll tell you about that in 1 second. So I'm waiting on a couple reps to get back to me because they're very busy, understandably so, just like I'm very busy. I was out salting last night, and here we go again. Went to bed for the night last night at 8 o'clock this morning and woke up this morning at 4 in the afternoon. So trust me, I get being busy too. So when people are truly busy, I understand it because I'm a truly busy person. But Anyways, who could we get to sponsor that bill? Maybe I could literally post things like that. Okay, here's what I want from you guys. I need some intel. This is where we can work together. Not just in the state of Michigan. Well, some of these are very specific to the state of Michigan, but I do not want to leave the rest of you guys out, so you guys can talk about issues like this with your states. Start letting me know. I'm looking for a couple things. Ideas for different bills that we could get to fight back with, to try to get some people to sponsor, to put forth. Resolutions are another thing. You know, bills, resolutions. Some resolutions do have binding effect. Some are more ceremonial, but they can actually put forth resolutions that do have effects on many things. Okay. Let me know that type of stuff. Also, let me know this, and this is just real quick to my Michigan people watching. Find me a Democrat somewhere in Lansing that's either in the House or the Senate that is like somewhat not completely anti-gun, at least to start. If you can find me a pro-gun Democrat, that would be just like golden. Help me find it. I've literally been walking around to representatives' offices in Lansing, some of them may be watching right now, saying, okay, all right, that's awesome that you stand where you stand. Now, do you know a Democrat that I could go talk to? Some of the reps can literally vouch for what I'm saying here. Can we find a Democrat? So if you guys have a Democrat that's representing you, I'm going to focus more on the House right now. And here's why. Yes, we need to focus on the Senate, but for 2 out of these 3 bills, every single Democrat is a sponsor. It's true. Everyone. So if somebody's sponsoring a bill, that means they support the bill by the sheer virtue of it. I'm not saying it's impossible. I never want to give up hope. But when somebody's a sponsor of a bill or a co-sponsor of a bill, it's virtually impossible to try to get them to vote against it. So I'm not just giving up on the Michigan Senate, but there's a reason why I've been focusing on the House this whole time, because there's not much of a chance in the House, but there's at least like maybe this much. When every single Democrat senator sponsors the bill, I know the Senate's the upper chamber in the Michigan legislature. Yes, I'm not dismissing them. My senator's an awesome dude, Senator Joe Bellino. He took advantage of some procedures and rules of the Senate just the other day to try to stall a spending bill where they shortchanged us and we didn't get our tax cut, but yet they're giving away about $1.5 billion over the next couple of years to corporations, including foreign ones. And he's been stripped of most of his committees now for it. That's what the Democrats do. But I would encourage my Senator Joe Bellino to keep fighting. It's not that there's not some good Republican senators. It's just that there's one of the bills, I believe it's the red flag bill, that only 19 out of 20 of the senators co-sponsored it. So that's a homework assignment. Find me somebody that might even sit down and like talk. And then I'll come back and let you guys know. Everybody needs to call Representative XYZ because they might actually be able to have a conversation. You guys know what I'm getting at? And that's what we need to work on together. So let me know. I need some intel from you guys. Also, okay, I lost my train of thought. I was said, hold that thought. And then I lost my train of thought on that. Oh, okay. When it comes to going to Lansing, yeah, I thought it'd be cool if we could get maybe just a couple reps, like 4 or 5 of them if I came up with 4 or 5 or 6 people to Lansing. And they could just take 5 or 10 minutes, whatever it is. We're just a couple of them from the Second Amendment Caucus. Representative Phil Green runs the Second Amendment Caucus. Maybe him, Jamie Thompson, a couple other ones could just talk to us for 5 or 10 minutes and say, look, here's our plans. We're going to try to amend in a certain way. We're going to need you guys to be urging your representatives to look at these amendments in the committee. So I'm going to try to see if I can get us where we can get a few more nuts and bolts. Now, I'm going to be walking around Lansing, even if it's by myself, definitely trying to find out the exact plans or vectors, as a lot of people like to say nowadays, of attack. But I think it'd definitely be cool if a few people could physically come to the Capitol with me. No, with this plan, I don't mean a rally or a peaceful protest. That's just not what I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about literally just getting people used to the idea that you can walk into the building and you can talk to your public servants and you can let them know if you agree with them or disagree with them. I want it to be a much more open process and get rid of this veil that so many people have. And I hope you guys are listening from all 50 states what I'm talking about right now. If there's nobody out there with a YouTube channel saying, I invite you to come to my state capitol with me, well, you don't need that. I'm trying to motivate you guys to start doing that on your local level. Get people from your hometown. Maybe some people in here that live in the same states can get together, right? Now, don't mistake that for what I'm saying here. I'm not saying because we only need to do that and we don't need to protest. No. Yes, the right to peaceably assemble. Yes, we definitely need to be exercising that more. That's just not what I'm talking about right this minute. So if anybody is in this area, I know I haven't given you guys an exact date yet. I'm just looking at like logistical things like the weather. I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to go there on Wednesday because that's when the House is coming back into session. Will they be adopting versions of the Senate bill? Will they be writing their own? They're probably already written. They just haven't been filed yet. And I think that'd be a good day to go there. If you look at the Weather Service prediction right now, they're saying there's a looking out for a severe winter storm. Sometimes, unfortunately, that's just where the rubber meets the road. Not only is it hard to drive that far if you have icy roads, but when you own a very small snow removal business, meaning I was out there literally by myself last night de-icing when we had that bad ice storm. Yeah, it's not just a matter if it's snowing. It's not just a matter of me saying, "Well, I'll just forgo the money from that to go to the Capitol." If it was just that linear, I might do it if I could, even though I can't really afford to. I would lose all of my accounts and then like not be able to make any money the whole season and go out of business. So that's the only problem. I'm not a professional YouTuber. I mean, do I look like a professional YouTuber? Could I possibly be bringing in the revenue doing this to feed my family? No. And that should be 100% obvious. So that means I have to actually make my living, and I'm in the snow removal business in the winter. But I'm looking at that weather really, really close, and I will give you guys a post of the exact date and time, and literally the front steps or the statue or wherever we decide that I can meet you guys at the Capitol building, and then I'll show you around the building and show you the offices where the reps are, and you can say hi to your reps or bye to your reps or whatever you want to say about any of these issues that are going on. Marco Polo with a generous super chat. Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. I wasn't asking you for money, but it does help. I was just like literally telling you guys the obvious. Sometimes people have misconceptions. It's like, no, I was out last night from like, well, it took forever just to even be able to get the vehicle doors open. Anyone that lives in southeastern Michigan knows how bad the ice storm was. So all of this wasn't just me spreading salt, but just all the crap that went along with it, trying to get the ice scraped off. Couldn't even get doors open on vehicles. I was out for about 8 hours spreading salt last night, and that's how I make a living. Some people assume that when you have a YouTube channel and this many subscribers or whatever, that, oh, dude, they've got to be making big money doing this. No, I put all the money I make back into the channel. This is a very, very small as far as the amount of finances I have, but it gets eaten up quickly, and I put it all back in. I was only telling you guys that, like, I can't just, like, quit my business to only do this, but I'm trying to do as much as I can. And Marco said, whenever you go, here's some gas cash. Not much, sir, but it helps. God bless. Well, thanks, dude. I appreciate it for 2 reasons. Because, yes, at the end of the day, that is some gas money, and it cost me $15 to park, and a couple of guys in my stream I did Thursday were generous enough to cover the parking for the next couple trips, so I really appreciate it. And it's also just the thought that counts. You work hard for your money, and the fact that you see me working hard and you would give away a little bit of the fruits of your labor to help perpetuate what I'm doing, that's cool. So it also means a lot on that level. The Reptile guys with the super chat. Thanks, man. He says, unfortunately, we have to have an invasion, something terrible happen for a lot of people to wake up, to begin to understand that they're not safe. That's a perspective. I appreciate that. Do you guys think you might be right on that? I think you might be, dude. What's it going to take just to wake people up? Do people even know about this here that's going on right now, that it's already happened like quite a few times before? Good night, Frank. Take it easy, man. Dude, this stuff has all happened before. Is it that people literally just don't know? I don't want to rule that possibility out. Clearly. Look, like that one poem that Trump used to always read. You silly lady, you knew that I was a snake before you brought me in. Do you guys remember the poem, The Snake? She saved its life, but then when it bit her with its poisonous bite and killed her, she was like, oh my gosh, you've bitten me, and now I'm surely going to die. And he's like, you silly woman, you knew that I was a snake before you brought me in. And that actually has some irony to it if you really think about it. Did she know it was a snake? I want to actually go to people that I see in my home state of Michigan and all the way across these United States. And I want to say, like, you silly people, you knew about the Bolshevik Revolution before you tried to bring it to the state of Michigan and make us less safe. I want to say that, and I do say that, but am I maybe wrong? I guess how would these people even know that they're bringing in Bolshevik policies into the state of Michigan if they don't even know what the Bolsheviks are? The Bolsheviks took control of Russia during the October Revolution of 1917, establishing the Russian Socialist Federated Soviet Republic, a precursor to the USSR. This undersized note was among the first issues of the new communist government. And this is an actual example of the first Soviet currency right here. Here's the certificate of authenticity, guaranteed genuine. These were hand cut. They were undersized notes, and this was the very beginning of a country that actually started to bear the red flag, the hammer and sickle. You had people like Karl Marx. You had the Bolsheviks, which violently revolted against the Tsar. You had the Tsarist, and you had Tsar Nicholas. And when they took over violently, because as communists have often said, and as Chairman Mao, with his Cultural Revolution that killed untold, probably 100 million people in China, said all political power comes from the barrel of a gun. And that's something I actually agree with, because our founding fathers agreed with that. Dumping tea in the harbor was due to the tax, and there were a lot of acts of revolt, and there were a lot of letters and redresses of grievances written to the King of England. But after enough was enough, the founding fathers of this country, the then colonists, they were actually legally faithful British subjects at that time, they revolted. And that was the American Revolution. And it's about the only revolution I can remember in recent recorded history that actually resulted in something more free and something that was better. But we've had revolutions before that and ever since. And we had this other revolution that was also carried out from the barrel of a gun, and this was not going to make the world a better place. And this isn't dead, these Bolsheviks. You know, John Lennon, that was a Freudian slip. Don't get me started on John Lennon and his sympathizing. Vladimir Lenin, that was a true Freudian slip, guys, but Sometimes those are the most truth. Vladimir Lenin, they called it Leninism. When Joseph Stalin took it over, they call it Stalinism. And then you can even fast forward past that with Nikita Khrushchev. Remember the whole Cuban Missile Crisis? Well, he was the head of Russia at that time, and he said, we'll take over America without ever firing a shot. Was he right or was he wrong? Because I see the state capitol filled up with people saying, do something, do something, do something. And then they say red flag. Red flags? This is a country that went from saying, I'd rather be dead than red, to now calling for red flags? When the Bolsheviks came in, it was actually a violent, bloody revolution. We've seen lots of violence on this country from the other side who wants to take away your guns and empower criminals and potentially make you a criminal. When they invaded the palace where the Tsar and his family lived, I'm not saying the Tsar was an angel by any means, Tsar Nicholas, but he was amicable enough where we had contracts with him, and the Remington Company and the Westinghouse Company actually contracted and made M1891 Mosin Nagant rifles and sold them to the Tsar and his regime. Now, when the Bolsheviks took over, they would, of course, imagine that, default, not pay their bills, ended up sticking us with a whole bunch of them that they never paid for. And some were used as expeditions up in the Arctic and actually have United States proof stamps on them. And off camera here, I actually do have an example at my shop, and I have a couple more at home, examples of those Remington American-made Mosin Nagants. Well, when they came in to take the country over, the Bolsheviks, and this would be the predecessor to the Russian Federated Soviet Republic, the precursor to the USSR. They took them over violently. And it wasn't enough just for the military to fight. No, they actually went after his family. And as you guys know the story, they had some tunnels where they were to escape out of the house, and they were trying to flee. And he had children, and he dressed some of his kids up with things to help them get it out so they could go back, and they had some money, if you will. Money was often kept in the form of jewels and gold and things like that. Here it's on useless pieces of paper, but maybe a lot wiser to still keep your wealth in things like gold or brass or lead, for example. So one of his children, a little girl by the name of Anastasia, they trapped his family in the hallway, and the Bolsheviks were shooting them as they were trying to get out, and she didn't go down. They kept shooting her multiple times. It's like, this isn't even possible. There's no way this child could possibly be alive. And they did eventually kill her. But they were shooting, and it's like, why won't she go down? Why won't she die? I mean, these people kill people. This is terrible. This is an axis of evil. And it's because she had like the petticoat uncovering like the jewels of like the emeralds and rubies and sapphires. And well, these are things that are certainly equal to the hardness of diamond, or at least not close, and actually do make quite a good bulletproof vest. These people that say for the children, and if it could save one life, they're literally looking at this stuff, not like it's a warning, not like you need to know history so you don't repeat it, but they're literally using some of the most violent regimes that have killed more women and children than what you could even imagine. In the name of, if you could just save one life, they're wanting to go down the same exact path in so many ways, especially when it comes to gun control, red flag laws. If you see something, say something, turn in your neighbor, worship your government. It's the only thing that matters. And they say, if it could just save one life, do something, do something, do something. And they want to follow this. Now, do they want to follow this because it's so bad, or do they literally just not know any difference? I don't know. It's a question to ask, isn't it? I'd like to think, but being naive sometimes, ignorance is bliss, but being naive, well, that can put you at a disadvantage. I'd like to think it's because they just don't know any better, but what do you guys think? Or do they? I mean, allegedly, according to the most free and fair elections of all time in the state of Michigan, and also I would notice, according to NewsGuard, certified source Time magazine, the most fortified of all time. I'm going to miss you, Susan Wiki. Neil, according to Time magazine, news certified source, NewsGuard certified source, the most fortified election of all time. Well, there's over 10 million people that live in Michigan. So since the election was so secure and fortified, that must mean that there's more people in the state of Michigan that wanted this than they did the United States of America. I hope I can find a Democrat in the Michigan legislature that's not radical. And I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it's hard. When on these 3 major gun control bills and their companion bills, look, there's more than 3 bills, but there's 3, and then the companion bills that they have to file to make it where the bill becomes bona fide and doesn't contradict other statutes. Michigan Public Act of 1927, which is where most of the gun control is. Yeah, Public Act of 1927. This has been going on a long time. We talk about the frogs boiling in the pot. But I'd like to think there's a reasonable Democrat out there. Now, look, I'm not giving Republicans a free pass, guys. That's why I've said in multiple videos, call these Democrats and call the Republicans, because I'm leery. I'm suspicious a couple Republicans might be wanting to make a deal with the devil. Suspicious of it. Haven't quite figured it out yet for sure, but I'm always suspicious. But here's the problem. When I try to give a Democrat nowadays the benefit of the doubt, they make it pretty tough when all 20 of the Democrats in the Michigan Senate are all sponsors or co-sponsors on the darn bill. Makes me wonder. I'll have to recheck my math because I don't want to give you guys false news here, but I thought I only read 19 on one of them. I'll have to grab that again because I have the bills printed here, but I need to go to those links that I shared with you guys in my video yesterday. I thought I only saw 19 in one of them. I know there's already people leaving it in the chat right now, and I totally get it. Dude, it's not just about the Democrats, blah, blah, blah. Look. And the Republicans are often at fault, too. I'm going to call some of them out in a minute. But a spade's still a spade. If it swims like a fish and flops like a fish and looks like a fish, it's probably a fish. So before people want to do that whole, I take the high road, don't call out to the Democrats. Well, hold on a minute. When all 20 Democrat senators all are co-sponsoring the bill, I don't need to finish the rest of the sentence. When 20 out of 20 of the Michigan Democrat senators are sponsoring the bill, it leads me to believe, and if there's any legislators watching this in Michigan, because I know some of you are actually awesome people, and I'll get to hang out with some of you soon. Some of them, maybe not so awesome, but explain this to me. How is it not on the Democrats when all 20 of the Michigan Senate Democrats sponsored the bill? I mean, I don't want it to be like this. Please give me some good news, guys. In this chat now, if you're listening to it on replay, tell me there's a Democrat out there in the Michigan House that doesn't want to follow the red flag way of doing things. Please tell me. I want to talk to them. I want to buy them a cup of coffee. You know what I mean? Right now, we've seen the 2 Senate bills, and they list the sponsors on there. All right, Linda, I saw another couple super chats pop up. She says, thank you, Mike McClune, for gifting 5 channel memberships. Well, thanks, dude. I appreciate it, man. I'm sure you guys that just got a membership already thanked him, but thanks for helping support the channel, dude. I appreciate it, man. Nate D with the super chat. Thanks, dude. He said you look like a pro to me. Really? Is it the hat? It might be. I was talking to Michigan State Representative Jamie Thompson. I'm like, she's like, how'd it go? I'm like, well, you know, nobody tried to beat me up. I got a couple, little explicatives. She's like, yeah, I don't really think they want to. I don't really think they'd, you know what I'm saying? Usually of them they're usually not quite so tough. They didn't really want a piece, but you guys ever been to the gallery at the Michigan House of Representatives? I'm sitting in there minding my own business. Well, I was outside. I told some of this story in a stream that I just did the other day on here. I'm walking in. I'm like, oh, geez, I'm in the gallery now. Okay. I'm sitting there on my laptop doing a couple things, taking some notes. And I was talking to one of the sergeant at arms, their staff, I call them the red coats. Well, they literally wear a red suit jacket. They wear red coats. I was talking to one of the red coats, and he was a pretty cool dude. And we were talking, and they're basically the house floor security. I'm like, oh boy, finally found a peaceful place where I can work on my story a little bit. I'm trying to get some stuff together and do some investigating. I'm still looking. Help me, guys. I was trying to find a Democrat in the Michigan House of Representatives. That's not crazy. And I'm still hoping there are some. I'm still trying to find it. Help me, guys. Help give me some tips. I need some leads. We're sitting there looking through. I'm like, oh, it's peace and quiet down here. And I'm like, all right, the House is assembling. And the Speaker of the House. What's up with that, by the way? Start emailing the Speaker of the House. He's a veteran of the United States Armed Services. He should know the difference. He should know better. Don't forget to get a hold of Joe Tate, the Michigan Speaker of the House. He should know better. I wish all veterans were pro-gun, but apparently not. But maybe he knows better somehow. I don't know. Don't forget about the Speaker of the House. But I'm like, it's quiet and peaceful up here. I'm going to do a little bit of this, and I'm going to keep an eye on my legislators, like physically, like I'm going to watch them because there's a good view from up there. It's actually a better view from up there than it is down on the House floor. Now, make no mistake, I was honored to be the House floor guest of my state rep on opening day, and you guys saw pictures. I was right next to her, so I could take a video of her up close, taking her oath, which was awesome. I was really happy to be there for her on that day, but you actually get a better view when you're up in the gallery. You get to see all of them at once. You're like, maybe this one, and maybe this one will talk to this one, or, it's just, you can do a lot of investigating from up there to see where they might be huddling in the corners, talking to each other before they vote. And that's what we should do. That's why they're open to the public. It is your job to be constantly investigating what they're up to so that you can let the people know, let yourself know. I'm like, okay, it's peaceful. It's quiet up here. I'm going to get some work done. And then I started to hear, and I'm like, and literally it was like a flow, just they filled up the whole gallery. And a lot of them were there for good intentions. Probably a lot of them were really, really nice people. I don't know for sure, though, because they were there to mourn, but then they were there to politicize. You know what I mean? I don't know. I've had to grieve the loss of loved ones before. I've had to carry caskets before. I know a lot of you guys have too. And I'll tell you what, man, when I lose a loved one, I grieve. And it's very, very important to grieve. And I want everyone to grieve as they need to and see fit. But I've never talked politics with a casket in my hand. You guys know how passionate I am. And it shouldn't have to be politics at all. The Second Amendment should be so above the political fray, we shouldn't even be needing to talk about it right now. This is ridiculous that we even have to talk about certain unalienable rights that are endowed by our Creator, that were put down in a document, the Bill of Rights, that really just says, don't tread on me. The fact that we're even talking about this is disgusting. But I'll tell you this, when my grandmother died, very, very important to me. It's hard for me not to cry right now just thinking about how much I miss her, to be honest with you. I carried her casket into the hearse, and that wasn't enough. I just wanted to see her away and just make sure, like... So I found it was raining that day, and not many people did, but I understand why, because it was raining that day, and my dad went down there, and I went down there, and a couple other people did, but it's kind of like time for the family to leave, and they're digging the hole with the backhoe, and I'm like, no, I want to watch you guys dig the hole, and I want to be the first person to throw a shovel full of dirt on there. And I was grieving at that time, and I'm getting sad even thinking about it right now. But when I threw the shovel full of dirt on my grandmother's casket, who was a very, very influential, important person to me in my life, the last thing in a million years I was thinking about was, your grandmother, repeal this gun control law. So maybe I'm just stupid and can't think as well as some of these people do, but I don't know how you could be truly grieving and even have politics on your mind. So when I see these people that sit there and politicize using graves as their podiums, it's really, really hard for me to understand that. But here we are. Here we are in the state of Michigan, and here we are in the United States, where this country's just gotten to the point where everything is just based on emotionally do this, emotionally do that. And there seems to be such a hive mind in this country. We're one tragic incident away from pick your town, pick your county, pick your state, from losing it all. There was a House resolution put on the floor for vote to mourn the loss of people during this tragic event. And I didn't know any of those people, quite frankly. So, of course, it didn't impact me like when I've had actual family members die. Of course, I'm just being honest. Anybody would say that. But it still made me really sad. And I thought that it was very important for people to be able to mourn. But I don't know what mourning would have to do with gun control. In fact, if I'm mourning over something like that, after I was able to stop mourning enough to think with a clear mind, I would say to myself, all right, if our job is as to them shall seem most fit to affect their safety and happiness, remember, we're supposed to have a government that, according to us, is supposed to affect our safety and happiness. I would actually start looking at things that make people more safe. Why would I want to go with red flags and go with the reds? To make people more safe? Are you kidding me? Why wouldn't these people want to stop and look at these criminal empowerment zones, where they say, if we ban the guns from a certain place, then nobody will have a gun there? Here's what's so ironic, and it's sad that it has to be this way, but it's just right in front of our face. Anytime one of these tragic events happens, it literally proves unequivocally that these laws do not work. We have a law in the state of Michigan, which is unconstitutional, that says you must have a permit to exercise your God-given right to be able to keep and bear arms in your vehicle. You have to pay for a permit to be able to have a loaded gun in your vehicle in Michigan. And even then, it can only be a handgun. It cannot be a long gun. It's true. Now, that's clearly an infringement on your natural right to keep and bear arms, because if it's a right, it's a right. If you pay for it, it's a privilege. So you don't have the right to keep and bear arms according to the Michigan government since like 1927. Look up, the Public Act is from 1927. Okay. They started all this crap in this state. But we do have a law on the books that says that unless you pay for the privilege, you don't have the right to keep and bear a loaded pistol in a vehicle. Well, this bad guy, this evil person that did things at Michigan State, he broke that law a couple years ago. And the law comes with it up to a 5-year prison sentence. But he didn't go to prison for 5 years. He was let off, if you want to look at it one way, by a prosecutor with, I think it was 18 months probation. Now, this is a circular thought, because should have he ever been locked up anyways for that? Because should there be a law that says you have to pay money to be able to carry with a permit in your vehicle? No, actually. But it works both ways. It basically shows this that, look, you can't legislate morality. And even if you do put these laws on the books, as unconstitutional as they are, that criminals don't follow laws. Like, literally don't. So this proves that the law that says you have to have a permit to carry a loaded pistol in your vehicle, this bad guy, this recent bad guy of recent infamy, he proves that that law didn't work, right? We already have a law that bans murder with very hefty, serious fines and prison sentences. He just proved that don't work too. Now we have a gun-free campus, and he just literally proved that didn't work too. So if there's things that literally provably don't work, there's a great book, I put the link down in the description, by John Lott. It's called More Guns, Less Crime. And he's a statistician. And many people say, and I would agree, the best statistician that there is in the whole country, even the world. And he literally unequivocally proves that this is the exact opposite. That as you try to restrict where guns are at with laws, it's the exact opposite, and his statistics prove it. And I would argue, while that's true, and we need to put the real truth out there, that's why I suggest having that book so that you can use it to fight with in the court of public opinion and to remind your public servants in Michigan or whatever state you're in. They're very, very important, because that's the way people logically argue, but you really don't even need that. It's just kind of common sense. There's good, there's evil. There's always has been, still is, and always will be a battle of good versus evil. And good people generally don't need laws, because we're afraid of a heck of a lot more than somebody that works for the government, right? But bad people and evil people, they're never going to follow laws because they don't care. Because laws don't affect criminals. They literally only affect the law abiding. And whenever these events happen, it's almost always the same thing. You can always take 2, 3, 4 laws on the books and say, that law made the victims less safe, this law made the victims less safe, and that law made the victims less safe. And then there were these other litany of laws that the criminal didn't follow. Now, that one is an interesting topic, one that if you guys want to talk about, I'm going to hang out for just a couple more minutes here, because we've been on for almost 2 hours already. Wow, time flies. I told you I like hanging out with y'all. But this is an interesting one, and it is rather circular in nature. A lot of people will say, well, they should have followed the law that was on the books and made sure this guy was put away 5 years in prison, like he should be. This is just an argument a lot of people make. And he wouldn't have been out on the street to be able to do it. That's one argument. The other one that's not being brought up quite so much is, but hold on a minute, why should have there ever even, so we agree with a law that says you shouldn't be able to carry without a permit? Well, I don't agree with that. So it is an interesting, but even though that sounds kind of circular, like, well, hold on a minute, he should have been in prison and then he wouldn't have been able to do this. Well, yeah, I guess in hindsight, if you could think, if you could have known the future, sure, that's a real low-hanging fruit. Pick that piece of fruit, because yes, if he would have been in a cell, he wouldn't have been able to do this. But he could have done it the day he got out. Who knows? But what it does prove is that criminals don't follow laws and that laws don't legislate morality. But I look at it a little differently. Whereas, yes, it does literally prove the fact that he broke this concealed carry law in Michigan. It proves that having that law didn't make anyone any safer. Yes, 100%. But I don't really want to take the stance that because he should have been in prison for carrying in his vehicle, I actually can't agree with that, because I don't think that it should be a felony to be carrying a concealed pistol in a vehicle. So now, if you murder with the vehicle, of course, that should be a high crime. And the punishment for that should probably actually be worse than what it currently is, because we see lots of prosecutors that let people out of prison on cash bail or no bail at all, or just nothing, for murder. It actually happens a lot more than people would like to think. So we don't prosecute for some of the most serious crimes that I think all reasonable people should believe is a crime, like thou shalt not murder. I mean, seems like anyone with any kind of moral compass would agree you don't have that right. You don't have the right to single-handedly deprive somebody their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness like that. And there's lots of heinous things you don't have the right to do to other people. But I do believe you have the right to keep and bear arms, to keep them and to bear them, and that it shall not be infringed. So I would agree with Marbury and V. Madison. Any concealed carry laws in the state of Michigan, they're repugnant to the Constitution, so they should be null and void. That's where I'm at with that. But here's the problem. We have all these unconstitutional gun control laws already on the books, and they're all unconstitutional on their face. Criminals don't follow laws. And then the government doesn't even enforce the laws that we do have. They don't even enforce most of the laws we do have. And then they want more and more and more and more and more. I'm going to do a video about the red flag laws over the weekend here, and that's a doozy. I tried to make that video quickly that I did yesterday, but keep in mind, I was skimming over 3 separate bills. And I want an active discussion with you guys, because I get a lot of wisdom and a lot of encouragement in the chat when I read it. And I don't expect everyone to agree with me. And I get what I probably just said a few minutes ago might be unpopular among some people. I get that. I do. I understand that. I'm just trying to be honest with the way I look at it. Because I'll tell you the truth. That was my first thing. I mean, come on. I'm not perfect. Are you kidding me? Sometimes I have to check myself a little bit. Sometimes viewers will check me on some things where I'm like, yeah, you're actually right. My first inkling was like, geez, oh, Pete, he broke that concealed carry law. He should have still been in prison, and this shouldn't have happened. Now, while I agree it shouldn't have happened, there was other signs and stuff beforehand too, completely separate of that. I'm just focusing on this one thing. And again, I'm admitting to you guys totally ahead of time. I know this isn't popular among all people who hang out with me. And this is back to where we don't have to agree on everything, but we can still be friends. That's what I said at first. I'm like, gosh darn it, he still should have been in prison for 5 years for carrying that handgun in his vehicle without a permit, because that's what the law on the book says. So no, actually, no. I don't think you should go to prison for 5 years for carrying a loaded handgun without a permit in the state of Michigan. I don't believe that's constitutional at all. And I know there's many other states that are going to be a heck of a lot safer than Michigan, especially with this litany of gun control they're trying to pound down our throats here soon, that have no laws at all about preventing people from carrying in their vehicles. And that's because criminals, look, nobody said that they were always moral. Now look, I don't mean criminals as far as like somebody that's in some made up law when I say criminals, I'm talking about people that are truly violating the laws of nature and of nature's God, like actual criminals, not somebody who didn't cross a T or dot an I or something. Yeah, I know that's what they consider criminals. I ain't even talking about that. I'm saying like true criminals that actually deserve to be apprehended because they're taking away other people's right to their life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Like actual bad guys. I want to reemphasize that. Actual bad guys. There's many criminal offenses now in this state and country that you don't necessarily have to be a bad person at all. There's a difference. Now, look, bad guys, they might not be real moral people, but they still understand certain things like, oh, man, there's some dangers and risks, and risks associated with my trade. And I better watch myself because, if I go into this college campus, they'll think to themselves, there ain't no one going to stop me. Because all these good old law-abiding citizens, they're going to abide by the sign on the door and nobody be armed, and I'll have my way. But do they walk up to a state with true, quote-unquote, constitutional carry? Do they walk up to any random house and just start nosing their way in and just walk up to cars and stuff? Now, of course, they still do because some people are just stupid, but you actually see the instances of that drop. It drops and drops and drops. Not because you carrying a gun changed their morality. That's not it at all. It's because they realize, oh, I'm a bad guy with a gun. I want to do this evil act. I want to take this money, this whatever it is they're after. But the odds are around here, somebody's going to shoot me dead and stop me. Yeah. If their moral compass can't stop them, somebody with a gun certainly can. And here's the kicker. All these people that want to ban all these guns, they already know that too. And here's how I can prove they know that too. Because when you looked at the state of Michigan in the House of Representatives, when, as part of them memorializing, if you will, remembering the lost students, they also came in and did a, I don't even know what you call it, and honoring, if you will, of the Boys in Blue, the Michigan State Police, and the county sheriffs. And they had about 50 of them, or maybe more, come out in a single file line. And everybody in there on both sides of the aisle was a standing ovation, clapping for them. Because they called them heroes for being first responders, for coming to stop this bad guy. Which there's two things going on here right now that don't make any sense. It means that, yeah, when people are faced with a bad guy with a gun, they called people with guns to come and stop them. Now that part makes sense, right? So the only thing that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, we say. Well, the other side must agree because they call the police who come in with guns when they want to stop something like this, right? Okay. That's only half of it, though. Now, this was the House of Representatives, and right now we see where the senators are at with it because 20 out of 20 of them are co-sponsors of two of the major gun control bills, and 19 out of 20, I'll have to reread that, but I think it was only 19 on one of them, is co-sponsoring. So I don't want to, I'm trying to be fair. I don't want to move that over and say that's how everyone in the House is going to be. But if I were to opine, I bet you a lot of the Michigan House Democrats want to pass these red flag laws. Maybe even some of the Republicans. I hope not, but I suspect, and I truly do suspect this, maybe even a couple of the Republicans. Now, they bring the police in as a standing ovation because they're saying these were good guys with guns that came to stop the bad guy to protect these good students. I understand that, but it's hard for me to understand now why those same people on the other side of the aisle, and I suspect some on both sides, but we'll say mostly on the other side of the aisle, why they want to pass a red flag law. Because what that does is, that's called take the guns first, then due process, meaning no due process at all. And I'm going to talk more at length about that, but I want to nail this down so you guys can think about the hypocrisy here, where my head's spinning and it makes no sense. So you're going to put these police up as heroes and you're supporting them. Okay, but then why do you want to throw them in harm's way? We've had red flag laws executed in this country where they broke into a person. This was in Maryland's house in the middle of the night. The cops just busted the door in to come for his guns because he was red flagged. Now, this person being an otherwise law-abiding citizen, he didn't suspect in a million years the cops were going to be breaking his door down. because he was law-abiding. Well, little did he know, somebody had red flagged him. Think about this. An ex-spouse, an ex-girlfriend, an ex-roommate, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, a police officer, a, quote, mental health professional, can flag you if this goes through in the state of Michigan and in many other places that it's already gone through. And cops have to come into people's houses because there's what's called an ex parte hearing, where you're not presumed innocent. In fact, if a judge receives what they believe good information to give them a preponderance of the evidence, which would mean if the judge sees 51% of the things that are on the affidavit or the application, rather, of the person that flagged you, if 51 things look like maybe you are a risk to yourself or others and 49 aren't, that wouldn't be enough to get you found guilty of a crime. That's beyond any reasonable doubt. If a jury truly believes in their head, there's a 99% chance he's innocent, but there's a 99% chance he's guilty, but there's a 1% chance he's innocent, they're supposed to acquit. It's beyond all reasonable doubt, but that's not the standard for these, not as set forth in this proposed Michigan law, this bill from the Senate, I assume soon to be taken up by the House. No, the preponderance of the evidence. So he said, she said, ex-girlfriend, boyfriend, squabble, jealous because the new girlfriend's hotter than her, because whatever the reason could even be. I mean, there's awesome women out there and there's scorned women out there. Okay, let's call a spade a spade. And they come in and boom, flag them. Joe, law-abiding citizen, pays for his permit, doesn't jaywalk. Once in a while, he goes 4 miles an hour over the speed limit, but he's never gone 5 miles over the speed limit. Carries his gun with his permit as a law-abiding citizen. Boom, boom, his door gets crashed in. What's he going to do? Anything any red-blooded, law-abiding American would do. He's going to draw his gun towards the door for the bad guy because he's never been raided by the police anymore. Before, because he's law-abiding. You guys see where I'm heading with this? You're going to put local police in a situation where they have to come in the house for the guns, where the person may not know and probably wouldn't guess in a million years it was the police, because you don't get to face your accuser with a red flag. You don't get to know about your, quote, trial. You don't get to put forth exculpatory evidence. No. It's just an affidavit of statement, an application by somebody. Somebody who have promised you before and said, if we ever break up, I'm going to come get you someday. I'm going to make your life heck if it's the last thing I do. Has said, oh, let's see here, 3/4 of exes that have broken up with each other before. So they love the police, but they want to send the police into people's homes in the middle of the night. Tell me that's safe for the police. Tell me that's safe for the homeowner. You know, this stuff's so crazy, I can't even make this up. I wish I was making up everything tonight. I would have loved it if I could end this stream by saying, and there is the fictional work of the book of the make-believe Bolsheviks. Whew, what a great... Can't make this stuff up. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. These sure are strange times right now. You know, I think of a couple things from a long time ago in one instance, and I guess kind of a long time ago in another. I think of Khrushchev saying, we'll take you over without even firing a shot. The Red Army, I'd rather be dead than red. You guys have heard that. Now I think of red flags. In the state of Michigan, that's what they're trying to do. In any of these 50 states. It's insane. And boy, that's stranger than fiction. I say would be interesting at the very least. And that comes back to that old proverbial Chinese saying. And this wasn't meant as a compliment. It was actually of the utmost curse. May you live in interesting times. And I would say we are definitely living in interesting times. So try to get me some intel, especially if you live in the state of Michigan. If you guys in these other states are talking amongst each other right now, hopefully you guys are trying to problem solve and think about a few things. We have to come up with a plan here. Really, the plan has already laid out in front of us. It's been written in history before, and we've seen it. But just you knowing isn't enough. We need to talk to more and more people. Now, I'm going to encourage you, if you live in Michigan, to write your legislature, okay? Write your representative, write your senator, call them. Go visit their office in person. But for every one time you do that, try to talk to 5 other people, just in your hometown, in your community. We have to let more people know what's going on, or at least talk about these things. At least if you start having conversations with people about what the heck's going on, there's a chance you can accomplish something, right? The Reptile guys left me a super chat I'm going to read real quick here, and then I'm going to jump off. He says, it worries me a little bit to see how scared these people in power are of guns. Are they doing something they believe we will seek revenge over? And you know what, man? You're talking about the same thing that a lot of us have talked about a lot. Dude, we're peaceful people. We just want to be left alone. That's the problem with us. We've just wanted to be left alone for so long. Just leave me alone. I don't want to talk. People say I don't want to vote. I don't want to do anything. Just leave me alone with my God-given, constitutionally defended rights. That's what almost every single person who I hang out with says and thinks. We don't want any trouble with anybody. Now, if someone were to do something tyrannical enough, people are going to come out saying things like, from my cold dead hands. Right? People will start saying things like, come and take it. When the government came into the Branch Davidians' home in Waco, Texas, they held them off and fought back, well, the best they could. Of course, they were outnumbered by a lot. I didn't even have a driver's license then, but the fact that there wasn't 10 to 50 million Americans showing up there, I'll still never understand that. But to make a long story short, yeah. What would they possibly have in mind, the Reptile guys, that they would want to do to us that is so bad that a bunch of perfectly peaceful, just good-hearted people that want to be left alone would even possibly take up arms against them? And then it makes you think to yourself even further, right? That the fact that they want to disarm us means they might actually have all of that stuff planned. And actually that they probably do. Because I cherish the whole entire Bill of Rights. These are not rights granted by government. A simple way to say it is, don't tread on me. Congress shall not pass, shall not be infringed. The right of the people, which is a term of art. It says several times, the right of the people. And I love all of it. You really can't have one without the other, because without being able to talk about the Second Amendment, it weakens that. And if you have a soldier quartered in your home, it's hard to talk about things. And he may take your arms and your rations and your food and your wife, quite frankly. That was a problem back then. They're all very, very important. And you can't take one brick out of the wall without weakening the whole wall. And that's all true. And don't forget that. But I still think the Second Amendment is the most important. Why? Because when the Founding Fathers put it there, they didn't put it there for if a tyrannical government would come for all the rest. They put it there for when a tyrannical government would come for all the rest. Because they knew tyranny. And I think a lot of us know tyranny. Because the Founding Fathers saw it firsthand back then, and a lot of us are seeing it right now. Don't give up your guns, or you're never, ever, ever going to get them back. That's what the rest of the world tells us. That's what the rest of the world has seen happen. And there's people that live in the rest of the world that remind us of that almost every day. I have people leaving me comments like that on this channel. So I'm definitely looking forward to reading this chat afterwards over the weekend. If you guys want to hang out with me, I will be live again on my locals community. It's another site. There's a link for that down there in the description. And I appreciate all of you guys who have helped support the channel. And that's with monetarily, because it does cost me money to do this stuff, but also with your words of wisdom and your encouragement. And do some recount. Let me know if there's even 1 or 2 Democrats in the Michigan House that might be representing one of you. If there's a Michigan Democrat that's watching right now that's a representative, that even a tenth of what I said makes sense, and you want to talk, then let's talk, and I will have a bunch of cool people offering you support. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.